Hi everybody. In this video we're going to go over a utility I designed called Intellipal. Intellipal is designed to help you visualize and edit Intellivision palette files, and specifically for emulation using the jzintv emulator. It has an option to be able to pass in your own palette files, which are basically a set of colors. And here on the screen here we have this example palette file, kind of the default colors, and we can see there's 16 colors here, and we can make our own and kind of adjust the colors. Intellipal was really inspired by the Intellivision Sprint console, because with the 1.1 update for the Sprint, you're able to, on a per game basis, specify the palette or the colors that you want to use for that game. So it kind of inspired me to say, oh, it would be nice to be able to kind of visualize and look at what it would look like having its own custom palette. To start here, we're going to go and talk about how to get this running. In the description of this video, I'll include a link to my GitHub page that will have a zip that will contain the application. It's just a desktop application that you download and put into some folder. If you use Sprint Game Manager, you could throw it in the same folder as that if you want. When you unzip the compressed file onto your disk, you'll actually get two files. You'll get the Intellipal application, and then you get this jzintv_pal exe. This is a modified version of the emulator that I needed to do some things to be able to get it to integrate with my application. This demo folder is solely for purposes here for this video, and you wouldn't have that. This video is basically going to serve as a user manual. So I'm going to walk through feature by feature different aspects of the tool. I don't think it's hard to use, but there's little nuances and options in here that may not be obvious at first glance. I actually have it open and running over here and kind of docked. You can dock using these buttons here on the left here, and this is kind of the main application. When you first start out, you're going to not have any palettes in here except one called default. Default is kind of the base, what the emulator uses, and it's a starting point if you don't have any palettes already. And we can see here, we have default selected. We could see the 16 colors are presented here in the application. One aspect of Intellipal is that it doesn't have like a new button. It doesn't say like, oh, I want to create a new palette. Everything we're doing here is either editing existing palettes or basing off an existing palette. You're kind of always starting from a starting point. And I offer up default here as a starting point. And so if we go up here to save palette as new file, and we can say my custom palette. I strongly encourage, when you name these, to put the word palette in the name. Like I said, this is kind of inspired by Sprint. The Sprint Game Manager will find these palettes on your USB drive when you're sideloading if it has the word palette in it and it has either a TXT or a .cfg extension. In my case, you don't even need to put an extension here. We can hit OK. And what it did is it created a copy of default. So if we can sit here and pick between these two, and we can see the colors don't change. It also, in this case, it also created a palettes subfolder in our folder now, and we'll have our custom palette here. And this is something we could drag onto the Sprint USB or use in any emulator or situation. First thing we're going to first feature of this, I guess I'm going to highlight is editing colors. So we'll go ahead here, click on our custom palette. I'm going to click this button that says open the palette. And here we open it in a text editor. And we can see our copy is just the 16 colors. So they're already there. I'm going to leave this open up here on the right. And we're going to go ahead here and change some of our things around. Here, this red looks a little orange to me. And so we can go in here, we get a nice color picker. We can go to this red, do our little adjustments, hit OK, and now it's red here. This asterisk here and this red dot here means there's pending changes. I can move amongst the palettes without losing those changes. But if I would close the app, I would lose them. Here, in this case, I like this red. I'm going to go ahead and save it. And if we look over here on the red and line 3, when I do the save here, it updates the file. So going through and adjusting colors here will update the file. If I completely go and move off the color, I'm like, I just want to get back. We can do this drop down and do a reset, and it just goes back to what it was on disk. So once you save it, there's no going back. Of course, we could go to our default and look up our code and get it back. So that's why I encourage, if you're going to kind of create a new palette, create a new one and leave the old one that you're basing it on there, because you can always use that as a reference. I'm kind of clicking fast here. To open that color picker, you go to the color here, this little box, and click on it. Just a single click will open this up, and then that's how we can edit it. And this is a pretty rich color picker, as they call it. Now I'm going to grab, in the community, in the Intellivision emulator community, people have made palettes. There's a lot of palettes already out there. People have spent time trying to create authentic looking Intellivision palettes that kind of remind you of what it was like when you're running on the old CRT TVs, that sort of thing. We're going to go ahead. I've downloaded a bunch of those. If we go here to demo, palettes, I have these here, and I'm going to grab these existing palettes. Some are TXT, some are config, either is fine. And I'm just going to drag them over here. This made a copy of all of those into our palette folder here. And now we can see all those files are here, but we can also see it in here. And now if we select amongst these, we can see that all of these kind of have a different color to them. Now I could go here and do save as of these other palettes and kind of base them off here and tweak these. I can edit these directly as we've seen. Now I'm going to move to another aspect of the Intellipal that I think is maybe a little more interesting, and that is using the emulator to kind of visualize these palettes. Now there's a little bit of setup to do this. Right now I'm not able to use the emulator because I need something called an exec.bin and a grom.bin. These are required files for the emulator to use. I don't provide those. Those aren't for me to provide. If you have an Intellivision Lives CD or a Intellivision Rocks CD, that's where you can get those. Maybe the Sprint has those, but that's a job for you to find and have. If you're doing Intellivision emulation, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know what this all means. In my case, by default, you can move your, or in this case, I'm going to copy. If you put them in the same folder as this emulate, the jzintv pal.exe, if you put these two bins right there by default, that's good enough. Now it's ready. The Intellipal has a settings where you could point and go and point to where those two are located on your hard drive as well. Either way, now I'm ready. After dragging those in there, I'm actually going to close the application and reopen it. It opened on my other screen here. I'm going to drag it over and dock it to the left here again. Now that I have a proper exec bin and GROM bin that is needed for emulation, we get a new button up here, and that's a new game session button, and we're going to look at that now. I'm going to select our custom palette because that's the one we're going to be working with, so I want that to be the selected palette, and we're going to go ahead and open a game. Just browse to your ROMs. There's a setting to set where your ROMs folder is, and I'm going to choose horse racing. That's one that we often want to change the colors on. If I move our window to the right screen here, we have horse racing. I'm going to do a little house cleaning here. I'm going to get that sized so that we can kind of see everything, and I'm going to arrange it here. So now we have horse racing being emulated over here on the right. Here I'm going to highlight another feature of Intellipal, and that is what I call the color traffic lighting. If we go up here, this checkbox turns it on and off. It's on right now. And what color traffic lighting is these little green here means that this color is currently being displayed. So in real time, it tells me which of the 16 colors are actually on the screen. This can be helpful to kind of know what would need to be adjusted. A lot of the colors are on here because of these bars up here on top are being drawn. Let's shift our focus over to the game session over here, and we're going to talk about what we got going on here. This is an emulated session here that we're looking at, and if we see here we have emulator running input ready, that means I can drive the game. If I had made this focused, then we get a red not ready. So if we want to be able to, we'll click that, and now we should be able to kind of do our game here. Notice that when I switched screens here, our traffic lighting in real time changes as we go through, and it says what's actually being drawn. Here we're going to go ahead and make a bet and see what we have. And let's here I'm going to switch over to the other screen here, and we can kind of watch how the traffic lighting, when we enter this screen, there's only a few colors being drawn right now. We have pink, white, yellow, orange. When I switch back, it immediately shows what's on that screen. That's very handy. I think pink is one. Yep, we'll do pink. And let's go ahead and start our race. I'm going to go ahead here and pause the game. We could use the keyboard too to pause it. This also pauses the emulator, and we're going to stop right here. Now I'm going to show another feature of Intellipal highlighted here with this screen. To me, I guess this is pink. It's magenta listed here. I'm going to go ahead and edit this and really make it pink. And if I hit this apply button, it real time changes it in our game. So this is another feature of real-time updates of the colors. So we can sit here and play with the colors and apply them and try to find that exact looking color that we want for this. Even orange feels a little not orange. Let's go ahead and make it almost this pumpkin orange. A little much, you know, but you could play with it, and you get the idea. So real-time updates of the colors as we go here. Another feature that I'm going to highlight right here is real-time palette switching. So I can sit here and go back to the default palette. I can see what this 80 palette is, which is one that was offered up by the community out on AtariAge. I am Berserk is the user out there that created this 80 palettes that's pretty popular in the Sprint community. This Sprint alt palette, this is what it looks like if you use the alternate palette that's provided in the 1.1 update from the Sprint. made by another community member, M. Thompson. Just great, the Sprint community, especially on AtariAge. Go over there if you're a Sprint enthusiast or whatever. Great community. But we could sit here and kind of go through. This grayscale one is interesting. It's just a palette that makes it look like a black and white TV. So hot swapping of palettes is a nice way to visualize what my custom palette, which was based off default. I can kind of go back and forth here and see what changed. I like the changes we made here. We can kick off the race here if we want and kick them off. But while that's happening, I'm going to go ahead and save my changes. This will save all the changes to it. So I just made my updates. Note when orange goes off here, off the screen. Oh, we got second wind there. But while the race is even running, we can hot swap our palettes here so we can really get a good sense of what's going on. We'll go back to our custom palette and do that. For the next feature of Intellipal, I'm going to go to a different game. So we're going to go ahead here. We'll reset this back to the main screen. And I'm actually going to quit this game. And I'm going to load Burger Time. Here we get Burger Time. Once again, we get real-time updates of what's being drawn on the screen. And in Burger Time, I want to go in here and start our session. And we'll pause it right away. This time I'm going to go to the 80s palette. This is a palette, like I said, made by I am Berserk is the username that a lot of people use on the Sprint because it was trying to make an authentic looking experience, and it's well regarded. For Burger Time, maybe I'm not all that nostalgic, and I want to have this. I like my lettuce green and my burgers brown. So what I'm going to do here is let's go ahead and create. And this is kind of one of the inspirations for Intellipal was this per game manipulating to kind of make it look a certain way. So I'm going to say Burger Time palette here, and I'm basing it off this 80s. So they're the same. I can hot swap them and nothing's changed. And now I'm going to go ahead and first thing to highlight a new feature is it says here I have a dark green and a light green on the screen right now being drawn. Sometimes it's hard to know. It's hard to know which of these colors is for which element here. So another feature that I'm calling isolate for Intellipal I'm going to highlight right now. So I'm going to go to light green and say isolate. When I do that, what it does is it puts everything else in a background color that can be configured. And now I only see what the light green is drawing. And I go, oh, light green is lettuce. I can add like my brown in here. I can isolate that one, and it brings in all the brown and the pepper and the hamburger. So it's just a nice, quick way. And then when you isolate these colors, to get it back, you just simply do a clear on any of them, and it brings it all the way back. So now and where was the dark green? Oh, these two little dots. Okay. Now that I know the lettuce is this color, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make this just a little more green here. And we're going to apply it. Yeah, I like this here where the lettuce is a little bit more green. So we're going to hit OK. And we'll do the brown as well. I'm actually going to go up here. No. Yeah, I don't mind that. And we can kind of play with it. And that's a nice brown. Let's hit OK. So we can see here that we've manipulated it on my BT palette for those. Now, as I've already shown, it's nice, especially when you're building off another palette, you're kind of like, oh, what was it before? How much did I adjust it? Well, we've already seen the hot swapping, and I can kind of do this and kind of get a sense of it. But now I'm going to show another feature of Intellipal that you could use, and that is reference. And that's on the game session here. So if I go to reference, I can choose as a reference my original palette, or any of the palettes, frankly. And now my screen is not honoring this. Like now if I hot swap, it's not changing at all, because I've said it's kind of like locking it in to my reference palette. But really where this is useful is I'm going to go back to my main palette here. When I go to reference, I can split. I'm going to do a vertical split. Now what it's doing, it's actually drawing using both palettes. The left right now is the reference palette. The right side of the screen is the selected palette over here. And now I can move this slider, and we can see here, hopefully it shows up on the video here, where I can see my darker hamburger and my lighter lettuce right next to the reference palette that I based it off from. And of course, I can hot swap to the default and see just how green the burgers look versus that 80s palette right there. That shows it a little bit better. Let's go back to mine. So we're able to actually use two palettes on the draw here. And by the way, I can resume. We can play the game while it's drawing using those two palettes. Now I got a hot dog straight on my lettuce. So that's using the reference, using the splits. You can split horizontally as well. So now when I do the slider, you can see it's sliding up and down. So it's just a nice way. And I'll talk about screenshots too. We can hit the screenshot button here in the emulator, or I put it up here as well. That will, if we do this screenshot, it will screenshot it with the it being drawn like this. So this is a great way if you want to like highlight the differences. If you made a palette and you could say, here you can clearly see the differences I made. Now we're gonna go a little bit further here. We're working here with burger time, seeing how this all looks, but I'm curious, how does my new palette affect a different game? I can open a second session. Let's open Cloudy Mountain. Hit open here. I'm actually gonna close that session, and we're gonna do a smaller window here. Let's try this one. I don't know how that's going to look on the screen. Here, open up right here. That's good. So now we have Cloudy Mountain, and once again, now we have two open. Let's open a third. Let's do Armor Battle and put that one over here. So we can actually now, when we hot swap, it changes all of these. If we go back here to this session, another thing we can do here is we can put a little code on these. Right now this is session 1. If I click this is burger time. Let's find these guys. This is, I'm going to call this Cloudy Mountain. This could be up to 3 characters. I usually just use a 2-character code, just enough to Armor Battle to denote it. So let's go ahead. I kind of wish my burger time wasn't so big here, but we'll go ahead and kind of position these again on here. Now our traffic lighting is showing, this is the colors on burger time, this is the colors on Cloudy Mountain, and this is the colors currently being drawn on there. If we go into Cloudy Mountain, we could see there, now these are the colors on Cloudy Mountain. We could go into Armor Battle and kind of just, it's nice. We could say, oh, everyone's drawing black. We can kind of see which colors are being shared on these screens. We know brown is, even with multiple sessions open, we can do an isolate, and now we're isolating on all of them. Remember, reference was just on the one here. I'm going to turn off reference on this particular one now. I really need to provide a thing here to select our games when we cover them up like this. So we kind of can see here how this affects multiple games. So now we can go in and say, well, this light blue, or let's pick a color that's being shared. Well, that brown. I actually like the brown that I chose for the burgers for Cloudy Mountain and Armor Battle as well. But what's another one? Dark green is shared by all three. We know that dark green over here. But we can go ahead and let's go ahead and manipulate that dark green a little bit, maybe really dark, and we can see how it affects each game. And so we can kind of view our changes real time across multiple games. The traffic lighting will support up to 6 sessions open, and it'll traffic light six of them. If you open a 7th or 8th session, it just won't traffic light those until you close ones out. The nice thing with this is if you have multiple monitors, you can move it onto different monitors. If you hook your computer up to your TV, or maybe you can get it hooked up to a CRT, I don't know, you could drag one of these onto that. And so then you can kind of be manipulating things and seeing how it looks on that screen real time. I just want to highlight a couple. This is definitely a beta level program. So there's some little quirks and stuff. But if we look at these 3 sessions, sometimes they go dark, is a term I use. The emulator crashes sometimes in here. It might happen while we're doing this video. I don't know. In that case, you just have to close that session and restart it. So hopefully people don't see that a lot, but I've definitely noticed it. Eventually, these just it could be my version of the emulator that I had to kind of change to make it work to do what I'm doing here. So who knows? The other thing is if I do close, let's go ahead and close Cloudy Mountain here. I think, yeah, see how we get a draw issue here? It moved the palettes, but it didn't redraw this one. The fix for that is to just simply resize and to force it to redraw, and then it cleans up those. I think that's it for Intellipal. I had some other features that I wanted to implement, but frankly, it's just getting a little much. We'll highlight the settings here. If you don't like these labels, black, blue, tan, dark green, you can change them here. Technically, the palettes support multiple ways to store the things. I always do it in the hex. Here's the game resolutions that you can start out and choose. And so you can manipulate which ones show in the drop-down. You can add your own. If you're like, most of these are 4:3. I have some 16:9s down here you can use, but you can add your own, and you can move these around. So if you're like, yeah, on my screens when I'm doing this, I almost always use 640 by 480, or I almost always use 1024. You can move those to the top, and then you can choose what it defaults to. So just some settings here: isolated, background. This was kind of neat. We could change. Let's say we're going to use this as our isolation background. So now when we isolate to a color, it's isolating that. So we can now isolate black, and it actually shows us where that black is because that's the background color. I think typically you're just going to use black there. So I think that's it. Nothing else to say, I think, on Intellipal. Go ahead and try it out if it is of interest to you. I'm going to post this on AtariAge forums. So if there's any questions, you can kind of follow along there. I'm curious if this is useful. I don't know. It's nice for me to kind of be able to kind of tweak per game. And if there's any enhancements or things like that, I'm all ears. I don't know if I'm going to mess with this much more, but maybe, especially if people like it. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.